Welcome back to episode 64 of the Shy Sports Weekly podcast. Guys, happy September. I can smell a little football in the air.
Yeah. Oh, because we got Krueger with us.
Yeah,
Let's get the
welcome
football
to
scent.
longtime listener, first time caller, special guest. We're excited to have him on, Ryan Krueger.
Hey guys, happy to be on. First things first, bear down, obviously. Then we're gonna be talking some fantasy football today. So shout out the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, year 14. Gotta give you guys a shout out today.
And how many
14
leagues have you,
years?
or how many
Jesus
years have you
Christ.
been a Bears season ticket holder?
Well, my dad's been one for I think 38 years now or something like that. Yeah.
So definitely have to
And-
plug that too.
And now, is your record at games? Are you over 500?
Over 500. To be honest with you, it wasn't until last year when I finally had a come to moment of realizing that for the history of my life, the Bears haven't been very good. Like if you had asked me,
It was
I would've
last year
said-
you realized that?
No, seriously, that's how much of a homer I am. I was sitting
It
down
only
one
took
year
you
and
moving to Denver.
I thought about it and I was like, man, like the Bears are probably just like, I don't know, a few games off from like the Packers, like overall. Oh no, we are like not good. There have been so many bad seasons I've watched as a Chicago Bears fan, but if you were to ask me, like, I would tell you like every year we're going 9-7, 10-6. Prior to the year starting, I'm always we're going undefeated. This is the year. Same way, same boat right now. This is the year. Justin Fields, he's going to do it. I like the new coach. I like what we're doing. I feel good about the Bears overall. The non-homer in me says we'll be okay. But, for right now, undefeated season inbound.
Can't tell if I
ESPN,
respect
ESPN
or-
says it'd be 3-14. So
Can't tell if I respect or hate that ignorance.
I just want to put you like in a mental facility. Any of the
It's
three. Well,
a
what's your,
it's a
what's
crazy
your fa-
thing.
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you're the guest. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I mean, it's crazy. I think once you adopt this sort of fandom is you become so attached that you stop actually like seeing the reality of what's happening. You just start living in the moment and you get so caught up in these, one great season that we've had that you just immediately think every season's been great. You forget about the ones that aren't good. And so it's just one of those things where I think when you're in love like that, you only remember the good. The bad just has never happened.
So I know it was week 3 of the preseason, and I know it was against the Browns and probably backup defenders, but Fields did flash it a little bit there, at least in that game. So the fact that you're saying Justin Fields is going to do it, we've seen it. So we kind of press play on that in the regular season.
Can I ask you a question, Krug?
Yeah.
Did Justin Fields, did he make it move?
Did he make it move? When we drafted him, absolutely. I was going absolutely crazy when we drafted Justin Fields. I have these pretty loud speakers here. I was playing Bear Down Chicago Bears and the Super Bowl Shuffle for about an hour straight on full blast. And I said, okay, if somebody complains, they can find me. I don't care. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm celebrating. This is my moment.
It's your Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So how many games are you going to make it to this year?
This year, unfortunately with the wedding, it's looking bleak. It's only looking like maybe one if we're lucky, which is sad. Last year I made it to, I think 5 or 6, I think 4 home games, 1 away game in Cleveland. Yeah, this year is going to be one of the toughest years. It'll actually be the first year I'm not at the home opener in probably about 14 or 15 years, which is just heartbreaking.
Impressive streak.
No,
Yeah,
it's funny.
it's been a good one.
I'm going to the home opener for the first time ever this year. Took your
The Bears are
tickets.
good on home openers.
I think I went to the one where they played the Falcons, and I think
Who dropped that touchdown?
Jordan Howard dropped the touchdown pass.
To win the game, right?
Right. Yep.
Oh,
That one.
no, it's fun. I remember that because this is the only reason I remember this because they had the blue on blue. They had the blue pants and the blue jerseys. Color rush
The blue hands.
Color rush.
and the blue. They gave me blue balls.
So Krueger, before we get into anything else, now that we're on the season ticket subject, what has been your highest high while being at a Bears game in your season tickets, and what has been the lowest low? I think I can probably point to what the lowest low was.
Yeah. Lowest low was definitely Cody Parkey. Without
double
I was
doink.
hoping. Damn.
it was the
Ugh.
saddest moment in my fan career.
I thought you were
I
just
went
gonna say in
home.
my life.
I went home and laid in the dark for about 7 hours straight. No
7 days.
sound, no nothing. Next day for work, I took off. I didn't
So did
even,
I. So did I. I shit you
didn't even
not. I
make
was
it to
about
work
to
the
say the
next day. I
same
said,
thing. I
this
took
isn't
off.
happening.
Went to bed at like 7.
Oh, that was
Who
heartbreaking.
wasn't
We had
who
such a
wasn't
good
drinking
team.
their faces off that day? On top of all that too, though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
like during the game, of course. Come
oh,
on, Bears make the playoffs once a decade.
And like they
playoff
were
tailgates are
legit.
different breed
Like they were
too.
a Super Bowl team basically.
He
Do we wanna
ruined
go
it, man.
How
He
often do you
ruined it.
watch 2018 Bears highlights? You ever just flip on the tape and you're like, "Damn, Mitch's 6 touchdown game was
the
just
Jergens?
phenomenal."
Mitch is such no. I do not. I do not replay any Mitch Trubisky highlights. I was a Mitch guy in the sense of like I wanted him to be good by being a Bears fan, but man, he just never showed it to me. Like I never really was a believer in what he had. I always thought we should have went with Deshaun Watson, which in hindsight now, like who knows? Touchy subject, but
Literally.
overall,
Literally
like
touchy.
yeah. Overall, though, like that seemed to me like the no-brainer pick. Obviously, everyone's going to turn back and think about Mahomes and say, "How did you pass on Mahomes?" At the time, everybody was, overlooking what Mahomes had. But I just don't know how you could have looked at Mitch, Mahomes, and Watson and landed on Mitch. You had a guy that could throw a ball out of a stadium. You had the proven winner who wins the national championship against Alabama, and then you have Mitch Trubisky from UNC who lost like, whatever, 5 or 6 games.
Started
that
like a
season.
total of 13 games. I don't think they even interviewed Deshaun Watson.
No, this is what I'm talking about. And, frustrating to say the least is, I'll die on this hill right now that throughout my time of being a Bears fan, at least the games I can remember, the best quarterback I have ever seen the Bears have is Kyle Orton. It's a
Oh my God! Come on.
hot take, but he was the right guy for
Oh, is that 'cause-
what we
it's
do
'cause
as
you
an
have-
organization.
Honestly, he was an elite game manager.
Elite game manager.
I
That's
can't
what
wait
we
He's
to-
need.
saying that because he's got Purdue plus 3.5 right now.
I
To
can't
be
wait
honest,
to clip this and put it on Twitter.
I don't hate that
Yeah.
take. I really don't. Like it
I mean,
sounds
come
it sounds
on.
out there.
Yeah, what's the time frame here? So you're saying in your Bears fandom, so say like what 2004 to today?
To the present. Yeah, let's go with like the last 18 years. Don't get me wrong, Jay Cutler was the most talented quarterback that we had, the best arm, the most tools, the guy that kind of had it all. But we look at his time frame, man. We didn't really win a ton of games. When he bowed out in Green Bay too, with that groin injury or knee injury, that was tough. And I was also in Green Bay when we were down 49-0 at half. So yeah,
Tore my ACL
Jay
that
Cutler was
day.
very love-hate.
So we'll take it a
Uh,
step further. If Orton starts the Super Bowl, do you think the Bears win that game?
Yeah.
Was he on the roster?
Yeah.
Was he the backup for
led
them?
the team.
And-
He won 9 straight games or so. He was like 9-1 that season before.
No, that was the
Rex.
season. That was the season before. That was 2005.
Yeah, but wasn't he still on the roster? Fact check.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming. I don't know if he was hurt. Do you think Kyle Orton right now could come out of retirement and give the Bears like 13 of 26 for 141 yards and a touchdown?
With a giant lip in.
13 of 26. Yeah. 13. He still got it.
By the way,
It's
Orton was on that
50%.
roster.
Yeah.
Was Brian Greasy?
We're talking about
Saul?
Kyle Orton.
Yeah, I know.
Jeff
I'm just-
Blake.
You just shouted Brian Greasy.
I know.
Who's Jeff Blake?
I don't know. Because Brian Greasy was in 2007. I didn't know if he was in 2006 as well. I don't know. My cock doesn't want to watch. What year are you looking at though, Psalm? That's what I want to know.
Probably the wrong one. 05.
'Cause No, I was looking at 06, so I'm right. You're wrong.
Well, no, the Super Bowl was played in 06. It was the 05 season.
No, the Super Bowl was played in 07.
07.
Oh,
It was
okay.
the 06-07 season.
Jesus
Let's see.
Christ.
So Orton
Yeah,
was
yeah.
not on the team.
No, he
Negative.
was. I don't know. Fuck.
Hold on, guys.
Where the hell did Kyle Orton go? He left for like 2 years, and then like he up in Van. He didn't play at all in 2006. Didn't play one lick. 2005, 15 games. 2007, 3 games. 2008, 15 games. So the best quarterback in Bears history had a record of 21-12. Had a 55% completion percentage, 30 touchdowns, 27 interceptions. That's how we bear down.
He's
I'll
the
die on
best.
that hill. I'll die
That
on
sounds
that
like Jameis Winston. With the
So what the
Bucs.
hell happened to Kyle Orton in 2006?
It's a good question.
All right, guys.
I
Do
don't
I
know.
need to get
This
on
is
to
where
the
this is where it all blends together, right? That's what I'm saying. You only remember the good.
How did we get to Kyle Orton even? I forgot.
I said he was the best quarterback we've had.
And I said
Oh,
if
yeah.
he started the Super Bowl, do the Bears win that game?
He was such a good game manager, right? Like he knew how to manage a game. When you have a defense as good as we had during, his time with the Bears, and how good our special teams was, and how important special teams was as a part of, just games back then in general, you didn't really need to do too much for us to be a very good, successful team.
Yeah, so I see the direction you're going, especially with the defense that they had. Like it makes
And
sense.
that's all we've been. That's all we've been, right?
It makes sense to have a game manager who can hand the ball off and not turn the ball over, basically.
Here's a question for you. Name the best Bears wide receiver we've had in the last 18 years. Who would you say is the best
Marty
Bears
Booker.
wide out?
Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, probably Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall, right? Like Allen Robinson had one great year. Muhsin Muhammad, like
But Alshon
I mean,
Jeffrey
what
in
are
the
we talking
conversation.
about here, right? It's just like not a great list. So everything we've done for the last 18 years is centered around having a great defense and an offense that manages and gets by.
Yeah, I mean it's sad to say.
That is Bear football.
Oh god, fuck. Now I'm depressed.
No. but you have to answer the second half of my question. Let's
Yeah,
not talk
I was
about
gonna-
all the bad. What was the highest high as a season ticket holder at a Bears game?
Oh man, highest high. There's always been some great, playoff games are always so fun to go to, but there was nothing. It's hard to explain the atmosphere every time there was a kick or a punt when we had Devin Hester. It was pure electricity in the air, and they'd play Soulja Boy, and it was just this awesome atmosphere. And it was every time. That would be the highest highs, just watching him. He's the best to ever do it.
Just waiting for him to
Never
pop
be
one.
replicated.
Yep.
So have you been to a bunch of playoff games? Or like how many games have you been to?
How many games have I been to in my career?
Playoff games specifically.
However many we've probably had. I don't know if I've missed any.
Oh
to be
wow,
honest with
really?
you.
So-
Damn, that's phenomenal.
So you would have been at that NFC Championship game, right?
And it was up there for one of the highlights. Like I said, the playoffs are always fun. The tailgates are unbelievable. Typically, like, tailgates, more expensive meat gets brought out. It's colder, but everyone's bearing
harder.
The
in. Yeah,
Wagyu.
it's just like a little bit better. It's just one of those
Filet.
things that as you experience it, it's just playoff tailgate is the best type of tailgate you have. But yeah, like I said, there was nothing comparing to when Devin Hester had the ball. You just didn't really know what would happen next. And then next, he houses a 70-yard punt return or 100-yard, kickoff return. You're like, it's just one of the coolest things you could ever see.
Game changer. I know. It's crazy just to think how much the other team's special teams feared him. You'll never see anything like it. Well, let's go into this year's Bears team. What's your favorite preseason storyline so far? Give us something outrageous.
storyline. Oh wow. All right. Let's say this: Justin Fields finishes top 10 for MVP voting.
Wow.
He's got all the
That is a bold
tools.
prediction.
I think it's really hard to know what we have in him, I would say, because last year with Matt Nagy, like the offense was just so high school football that we didn't really get to see anything from him. What we've seen so far in the preseason, though, is that we're getting him on the move. We're kind of catering the offense to what his skill set is. And the great thing that we get to see with him is he's got unbelievable arm talent. He throws a great football. And I think he's got the tools to be really, really successful in the NFL. Will our offensive line hold up? I don't know. But, what's to say that he is not throwing for 30 touchdowns and rushing for 800 plus yards?
I do like that Alex Leatherwood pickup.
Why not? Right?
Yeah, why not give the guy a shot? He's a
Why
first
not?
round pick. Sometimes it
It-
takes offensive linemen a year or two to get their footing in the NFL.
That's why I wanted to do the starting 5 of football names, because I was going to use Alex Leatherwood. That's where I got that idea.
That is a strong name.
Would that have been your first pick?
No, I was going to go, was it Brian something?
Milk.
I forget. What's the Brian Bosworth? Couldn't think of his name.
I like the brick
Had
of
it written
Sean
down.
Ferguson, personally.
You
I
guys
had
aren't
him
starting
written
with
down,
Mike Ditka? Mike
Dick
Dicka's not the
Butkus.
greatest football name of all time.
Dicka's. It's the honorary Dicka draft.
Is there
Sponsored
a
by-
more
sponsored by Mike Ditka.
manly name than Leatherwood?
No,
Like leather and
No.
wood are just the foundations of this country.
of men. What do you
I don't know
think?
if that's
What do you
true.
actually think the Bears' record's going to be this year? Do you think they'll be anywhere near 500? They'll sniff 9 wins? No shot, right? Like, you can't. There's no way you could think this team. And here, this is actually. I'll filibuster here and give you a second to think. This is a hot take, though. I think if the Bears would have lost a preseason game, they would have been more likely to win 9 games in the regular season than they are going 3-0. I feel like any team you see that goes undefeated sucks.
The problem is they have a pretty tough schedule too at times. Like there are a couple cupcakes, but there's tough sledding towards the back half of the year, even the middle.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. Okay.
Here, let's go through it. Let's give him the win loss.
Yep. We'll just
Treatment here.
run it down one by
Oh, wait.
one. So week 1 at home against the Niners, you got a win or loss there.
Week 1 at home versus the Niners. Like I said, the Bears are good in home openers, traditionally speaking.
He's gonna have the
I
Bears
like the Bears here.
12 and
I like
5
the
this
Bears
year.
here. Give me the Bears with a dub on this one. Like
Week 1 W.
28-17.
If there's one I could see them sneaking away with, it's probably this. Like catch Trey Lance on his
And-
heels.
I just want to let you know before you go through with the rest of the schedule, we're gonna tweet this out and tag you, so you're gonna have to deal with everyone in your mentions. I'm sure you're thrilled about that.
Think before you speak on these.
No, this is good. This is good. No,
Build the Sponge Stocks brand.
Huge brand to build there. Really, really shooting to gain a lot of followers on the Sponge Stocks Twitter account.
All right, we
right.
got so week 1 Niners, week 2 Packers or Bears at Packers on Sunday Night Football.
Oh man, being on a podcast, I gotta say we gotta win the game. Being a homer. But if we're gonna be in reality land, it's Aaron Rodgers owns us basically. But I don't think the Packers are gonna be that great this year. I think we can get one win against them. I would like to see that win happen at home. I don't think we're gonna go the season have 2 wins against the Packers. Just in all reality. But give me the Bears winning at home later in the season versus the Packers. But I do think this game on the 18th will go 1-1.
I like that call. They play the Packers at home first week of December. Could be a sloppy weather game. Obviously, the deal with the Bears grass. That's one that they could steal from the Packers. But week
better
2
question.
Sunday Night Football, national television, it's going to be a rout.
Better question for that game: do the Bears cover?
Do the Bears cover? Yeah, I think the Bears should
nobody
be a
knows what the
great
line
team to bet
Week
on
2?
this year.
Week 2, do the Bears cover?
Depends what happens in
Lambeau?
week 1, but I think they're going to be at least touchdown to 10-point underdogs.
I was gonna say 9. So
I think they're 9.5 to open up, right?
7 right now.
7. Yeah, I do think the Bears are going to be a great team, like for betting perspective, to cover a lot of spreads. I don't think. We didn't get worse from last year. We got better. We got rid of Matt Nagy, and we brought in some additional pieces. Like I think we will be better than what we were last year.
What the hell was their record last year? Were they 5 and 11, 5-12, or 6-11. They're 6-11. They had to be 6-11. That's crazy that they won 6 games with Matt Nagy.
We always win like at the end of the season games that don't matter. The games that like hurt you for picking
for
it's
draft
like,
positioning.
we win those every time. We'll play the Vikings always in like a few days after Christmas or right before New Year's. Game doesn't matter. We'll always win that game. Just
that is so true.
Matter of fact.
It is fun to spoil the Vikings
Monday
season
night
though,
game
at the same time.
All right, week 3, Texans at Bears. Lovey's return.
We are definitely going to win that game, but I do like Davis Mills this year. I do think he is going to be a relatively pretty good quarterback in the NFL.
So we've got the Bears at 2-1. Then we go to the Meadowlands Giants. First Sunday of October. Who you got there?
I mean, again, I don't think the Giants are going to be good. I think we open that one up with a W as well. I think we'll start off the season pretty hot,
3-1.
and then it's going to start to slowly fall apart. I think we're going to start off hot. We're going to look good, but then ultimately talent is going to, we don't have the most talented roster in the NFL. Like we still need additional wide receivers. Our offensive line is not where it needs to be. Our defense still is a couple pieces away, in my opinion. So, I think we're going to start off hot, but then I think we're going to go on like a relatively decent skid.
So they go to Minnesota.
I'm going to say, do you think the Bears roster is more talented than the Vikings?
I do think we are probably more talented than the Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year.
So do I.
Kirk Cousins is just, he's not very good. It's time for them to move on from him. And I think overall, outside of Justin Jefferson, like they don't have
Jalen Reagor.
I mean, they have Cook, and if Thielen can stay on the field.
They have Kyle Rudolph's not even there anymore. He's with, I think he's with Tom Brady in Tampa.
I have Tyler Conklin, though. I think you guys are, I have the opposite feeling about the Vikings. I think they'll be at least 500 this year.
I mean, I don't know how many times a team can just keep trusting Kirk Cousins to go like 500. Like I think eventually that's his ceiling. Like he's got to come down.
That's the thing is
Gravy's a bitch.
It's really gonna depend on their defense because I think he can keep them in games and put up points in shootouts. So
who would you rather have at quarterback, Kirk Cousins or Kyle Orton?
Oh,
either.
Good question. Good question. Give me Kyle Orton. Like I would rather have a guy that's not going to lose the game versus a guy who will lose a game for you. It's why Alex Smith was always like one of my favorite quarterbacks because he was just the guy that was good enough, but wouldn't do too much. He would just do enough to win games. Give me those guys. That's being a Bears fan.
I feel like you're talking about guys that never win Super Bowls.
No, it's more or less. It's like,
give me Trent Dilfer.
It's 18 years of, it's my whole life of just watching horrible quarterbacks that I've always dreamt of other quarterbacks around the NFL that I was like, man, if we just had that guy, our defense and our special teams is good enough that with this guy, we could probably win it all. And so I always would think like Alex Smith would have been the perfect Bear to just like lead us to a Super Bowl because the defense would have been good enough and he wouldn't have done too much and he would have just got the job done. That's all we've ever really needed. We've never needed the Patrick Mahomes type to just go out and put up 50 points a game. Historically speaking, Bears defense has been, pretty great since we've been around. So, it's just one of those things.
What did you give us for your week 5 prediction here after we started just ripping the Vikings?
Week 5, I think this is where we could see the Bears skid quite a bit.
So they're on the road.
On the road.
Minneapolis.
Again, I think overall for like the NFC North, I think we'll probably go 1-1 versus every team. I don't think we'll go 0-2 versus any of them. And if we do, the team I'm most afraid of this year is Detroit.
You've been watching
too much Hard Knocks.
Been watching Hard Knocks for sure. But I also thought at the end of last year,
Dan Campbell knows to lose in the preseason.
They really showed a lot of improvement towards the end of the season. And I started to think, he might be a pretty good coach. Now watching Hard Knocks, kind of reinforcing what I thought at the end of last year of he just does his job, lets everybody else do what they're supposed to do. That was Matt Nagy's biggest challenge was he wouldn't delegate the offense. He wanted to be the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the whatever. And he had too much pride to give up anything where This guy's just like, hey, man, you go out, you do your job. I'm going to just motivate these guys, get them to play hard. And we saw them play hard and be in a lot of games. So how many games were they in last year where, we're talking end of games where flip of a coin, right? Go a couple different ways. They're probably a pretty decent team. I think they'll probably go 8 or 9 wins this year. I still think
Really?
Jared Goff stinks. I still think Jared Goff stinks. That's going to be the hardest thing for them is he's not very good.
Interesting. So you're saying the Bears are losing that one. So they'll be 3-2 at that point.
Yep.
And they have a home Monday night football game.
Thursday night.
Thursday night. Okay, Thursday night game against the Commanders.
This is
Give
the
me a
game that
dub.
we have to take the over. This is because they're wearing those orange helmets. This is an over game. Those helmets don't play defense. That's a fact. All right.
Definitely a win here.
So 4-2.
So then they got at New England on Monday night, at Dallas, and then home against the Dolphins. How many wins do they come out of in that stretch of 3 games?
Not winning any of those games.
0-3 in those. All right, so that brings them to 4-5. Then their next two are so this brings you to November 13th. Lions at Bears noon start, and then November 20th, Bears at Falcons noon start.
Let's say
And they're 4-5 at this point.
I think we'll probably lose that game to the Lions. I think we'll win the game against the Falcons. Lose the game. Not against it. We'll win the game against the Jets. Win the game against the Packers at home. So we'll take a 4-game
Jets, Bears at Jets, right a little after Thanksgiving. And so that has the record at 6-6. Yeah. So you're 6-6 entering December. Bears, Packers at home. Probably fighting for a wild card spot here. Aaron Rodgers just coming to fuck our faces.
Yep. And this is where this is where I think this is where we'll possibly get tricked, right? I said I think we'd have a good shot to win 1 or 2 games against the Packers. I think I like the game at home. So I'll take it as the Bears win this game. And this is going to get us as fans really excited. Like, whoa, we're going to go to the playoffs, but then we're going to lose to the Eagles, lose to the Bills, probably lose to the Lions, and then we'll win the game against the Vikings to be
because that's just
right
how
around
it
500.
goes.
That's just how it works. And then we'll pick at 17 or whatever it is, and just kind of live in mediocrity for basically
and get Shea McClellan.
So if my math is right, I think you have the Bears going 8-9.
Yeah, that's what I had too.
Probably.
And what if Kyle Orton was the quarterback? Where would we be?
Undefeated,
Our
baby.
defense isn't that great, but hey, if we
We'd be
had
looking
that
at a first round
Super Bowl
bye, I think.
defense, though, that's a championship team.
All right, so who did you say you would rather have, Kirk Cousins or Kyle Orton in their prime?
Kyle Orton.
So I posted that on Twitter. 84 votes in 4 minutes here. 56% of people are saying Kirk Cousins. So
It's kind of close.
50-50 split, though. I don't think you were expecting that. I think you were thinking 90-10 here.
no, I was expecting Kyle Orton in a runaway just because it's a Chicago sports account. But I digress. All right, you want to go into some fantasy football talk before we do a starting 5?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, since we're talking about the Bears, who do you think is gonna be fantasy relevant on the Bears? Are there any guys on the Bears offense that you want or are targeting in fantasy drafts?
I think
I have
Mooney
to,
could
I have to
definitely
mention
be
too
pretty
that
good.
Krueger and I used to do a fantasy football podcast, so
We did.
there is
The
some validity to
Monsters of the
what he's saying.
Remind us again what that was called.
Monsters of the Mike.
We
Fuck
made
it.
it. Made it through about.
I
one
was
season, I think.
a guest on that. Actually, it was probably because of that I started podcasting myself. So good on you guys.
Look at that.
You ruined
Hey,
his
you
life.
gotta go after things, right? Like
You ruined
you
my
gotta go after
fucking
things
life.
that you're interested in. Which is always fun and exciting. And yeah, I mean, if you don't take those chances, like where you're gonna end up, right? You
Probably
gotta
dead
try
somewhere.
to do
It's
things
cool.
that are different, right? If you like doing it, then go for it. That's kind of my opinion on things. For Bears players, I think could be relatively good for fantasy this year. Justin Fields is someone I have in 3 out of the 4 leagues that I've already drafted. Obviously, I think there's massive potential here for him to be a standout fantasy quarterback. If he's going to be a standout fantasy quarterback, I think Mooney is going to be a standout fantasy wide receiver. I don't think he would be good enough to be like a top 10 guy, but could he be like an 11 to 15 sort of fantasy wide receiver? I do believe that. And then when it comes to our running backs, I mean, we've seen a lot of success from David Montgomery at the running back position. It just always is health for him, right? It just comes down to that one single thing. But I do like what Khalil Herbert showed us last year as well. So I do think if Montgomery goes down, Herbert's not a bad option to have as a handcuff. And one of the questions I was going to ask you guys today, and we'll get into this later, but just to get the wheels churning for you a bit, is I want to know, what are you guys thinking for, who are some of the best handcuff running backs to own? And, Herbert is one of those guys that stands out to me. Of Montgomery goes down, haven't seen him healthy, he could be in for a lot of work and be a pretty successful fantasy back this year.
Yeah,
I mean, I actually had a draft. Sorry to cut you off. I actually had a draft just before this, and I took both Montgomery and Herbert as a handcuff.
I mean, we saw Herbert or Montgomery go down last year. Herbert assumed the starting job as a rookie and just absolutely killed it. Like, arguably looked like the better running back. David Montgomery's very good, so not to knock him at all, but it was almost like we didn't miss a step. So promising future for Khalil Herbert when Montgomery passes that starting role torch to him. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt this season, but if he does, like you said, great handcuff option right there.
So two that actually come to mind, and one's you're gonna be like, this is fucking weird. But so one is in Green Bay. I think that's kind of might be an obvious one, but Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I think AJ Dillon's just gonna get more just of an overall workload. This is the weird one. I think Rex Burkhead in Houston. So Damian Pierce, I know that sounds stupid, right? But hear me out. Rex Burkhead is more of a traditional pass catching back, right? So he's on Houston, who's going to be trailing in games, trying to come back, throwing the ball a lot. He's going to be in a lot of, more than just, third downs. So I think like as a handcuff, he's going to be perfect.
Listen to this guy.
Wow.
You guys been
Fantasy
doing a little
guru,
hard-hitting analysis, huh?
Hey, I got some news for you here. From weeks 13 to 17 last year, Rex Burkhead was running back number 13, putting up 11.5 fantasy points a game, 57.6 over that time period. He was pretty successful. He had one monster game. I can't remember what or when that was. I want to say that might have even been like the first week of the playoffs, but he did have a monster week in there. Definitely the offensive scheme, like you mentioned, would be a good fit for him, because they're going to be down in quite a few games. Houston's not going to be a very good team. So yeah, not a bad idea for a backup there.
I think Kyle makes a good point though. Like when you're drafting players on bad teams, in all likelihood they're going to be losing a lot and need to throw the ball. So you do want the pass catching running back or whoever the number one target is as far as receivers go. Still thinking about handcuffs. I like Naheem Hines. Not that I think he's going to be a guy who gets 15 to 20 carries a game if Jonathan Taylor goes down, but they did say that they want to throw the ball more, and he is an elite pass catcher. So even with Taylor on the field, I still think Naheem Hines could have some value.
Okay, I like that. I mean, the one guy that I think really stands out to me this year is Tony Pollard. I think we've seen a lot of flashes from him, and I think we've seen the best days of Ezekiel Elliott are behind him. He's on his these running backs, they just don't last too long. It's just their bodies apparently can't hang for that long in the NFL. The days of the Frank Gores lasting till 30s, running the football, I think are just over. And I think for a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, if he takes a step back for a Dallas team that's trying to push for, the playoffs and towards a Super Bowl run, are they really going to just give him 15 carries a game because he's Ezekiel Elliott? Or if Tony Pollard is much more effective than him, are they just going to give him the keys to the car and just let Zeke, get in spot carries here and there, right? Have 10 to 12 carries, and maybe Pollard's the guy getting 15 touches a week. That's one guy I'm targeting.
They're also looking for guys to catch the ball in Dallas. Like after CeeDee Lamb, their wide receiver room is a bunch of guys who I don't think have even played a snap of regular season football in the NFL.
Why did they trade Amari Cooper? For salary reasons?
Yeah, I think they didn't want to pay him.
Interesting. Because they have nothing.
I mean, they have Dalton Schultz, they have CD, but I mean, there's definitely an argument there, and probably a real one to expect Tony Pollard to be the third highest target getter in Dallas.
Which at that point, we're drafting Ezekiel Elliott like in the third or fourth round in fantasy drafts. And, Pollard's going, I think, like 8 or 9 or something like that. We're probably under drafting Tony Pollard. We really think Zeke's getting 20 carries a week and getting 100 plus yards and, a touchdown a week? I don't
No.
think so.
So this brings me to my next question here. Do you think Dak is a top 10 fantasy quarterback?
Ooh, top 10 fantasy quarterback this upcoming season. Gut instinct says no. I don't believe so. I think he'll probably be on the outside looking in from probably, 11 to 15 range. Obviously a good quarterback, but we see a lot of guys right now in the top 10 that are going to be able to run for, many yards, right? I think Justin Fields can be in that category, Lamar Jackson, even Mahomes gets a few hundred yards a season running the
Kyler
football.
Murray, obviously.
Kyler Murray,
Jalen Hurts.
Trey Lance, there's a lot of guys that I think are going to be a lot more fantasy relevant just because of that aspect that they bring.
Interesting.
So you said how many teams do you have? 3 or 4? Aside from
I have 4
Fields,
teams this year.
Aside from Fields, who do you see yourself like targeting or drafting a lot?
The one guy I think who I have is, trying to must draft in a lot of leagues is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last year,
he makes
the
it
tail
move.
end of the season. I mean, I ended up winning 3 out of 4 leagues last year. I mean, he was the difference maker on those 3 teams. I had him. And I think over the last like 4 weeks, I want to say that he was like wide receiver number 3 or 5. And we're drafting him like a wide receiver number 2. I don't know if that's the right assessment here. I think the Lions have gotten better. I think he's going to still see a ton of targets. I think they're going to find interesting ways to get him the ball. And if you are watching Hard Knocks, this guy is built like a Greek god.
He's hot as shit.
Yeah, he's just jacked.
The story of his family is like his dad and his brothers is actually pretty wild.
My favorite part of that was that his dad doesn't let him and his brother talk to each other at the gym. It's only business.
That's outrageous. It's awesome. When he's like, oh, you need water? He's like, what? Spit's not good enough?
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, I'm having a panic attack.
I agree with you on St. Brown for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like he is kind of a similar style player to Cooper Kupp. They run similar routes. They play in the same spots on the field. And Jared Goff made Cooper Kupp a very fantasy relevant player. So I expect that to continue just based on Goff's play style. And obviously he showed it to us last year. Like his hands are ridiculous. Like his ability to catch the ball and move with the ball are elite. The thing that I caution about him is DeAndre Swift was hurt at the end of the season when he went on that run. So it felt like he was their ultimate like number 1 or only weapon on the team at that point. They've added DJ Chark. They drafted Jamison Williams, he's going to be ready towards the middle of the season probably. But like, you think about them getting Swift back too, like he's going to lose some of that target share that you had at the end of the season.
Or the opposite side there is DeAndre Swift makes that offense a lot better. And that offense is just moving, churning, and burning. And now he's getting better opportunities than what he saw last year. A lot of what he saw last year were games they were down, were a lot of underneath routes that he ended up, taking for, a lot of yards. And so I think it's possible that the offense is just better with the more players that they have this year and them taking a step forward. He could be the key cog to really making that offense go. Why not? Why not see double-digit touchdowns from him?
What round are you usually taking this guy in?
I'd have to look and see. Every league is a little bit different. So certain leagues, it's all about who you draft with, right? You got to know the guys you draft with. And if you don't know who you draft with, then sometimes you got to make educated guesses as to what they might be thinking. But, in one league, I might take him a round or 2 early just because I don't want to miss out, right? And that's some of the strategy that goes into fantasy football is just identifying the guys you want and then what you're willing to pay for those guys. you don't want to miss out on certain players because you want to live by this idea of ADP, right? If you're a slave to ADP, I'm telling you right now, you're probably not going to win too many fantasy football leagues.
And for
'cause you
those who
gotta
don't know
go
what
with those
ADP
guys.
is, it's average draft position, correct?
Yes.
There we go. Keep going. Sorry.
So I think it's always important to identify those guys that you really want and then ensure in a draft. So if you're picking at 1 or 10, you're going to have to go 20 picks in between drafts. And I think for majority of the leagues I played in this year, I ended up at the back half versus the front half. And, when you're picking at the tail end of a draft and you got to wait 20 picks, do you think this guy is going to last 20 picks? And are you okay if somebody else takes him? Right. So I see a lot of upside in him as potentially a wide receiver 1. I want to draft him in, rounds 5, 6, 7, and make sure that I'm getting a guy who I think could be a wide receiver 1, but I'm drafting as a wide receiver 2.
So you brought up a point about where you're picking in the draft. Your a lot of your drafts, or maybe all of them, you said, are towards the back end of the draft. Do you feel like you knowing going into the draft when you're preparing and like that you're either the 8th or somewhere between 8 and 12, or if you were earlier in the draft, do you have a certain strategy that you abide by, or do you just kind of let the draft come to you?
Well, I mean, one, you got to always let the draft come to you. That's, an important aspect of it. But yeah, you want to go in with some sort of game plan in your head for those first 2 picks. What does it look like for you? Is it a wide receiver? Is it running back? Is it, 1-and-1? What does your construction look like? And one thing I've seen over the past couple of years is just the running backs we draft in the first couple of rounds haven't been super successful. Now, typically speaking, that hasn't really been the case. Usually the guys drafted in the first 2 rounds have been wildly successful, but you've been able to pick guys up off the wire that have been successful and can help you win, individual weeks. And I think part of that is just this idea of running back by committee. The days of the true workhorse, I think, are behind us for the NFL because they want guys that can catch the ball and they want guys that are just going to run the ball. And so I think we see more of that now. So you have more of a 50-50 split, meaning you're going to have guys that have very good weeks for specific matchup reasons. So sometimes, when I'm picking at the back half, I like to think, wide receiver. But if I'm playing in a 12-team league, a 14-team league, 15, 16, I'm definitely getting a running back because you can't miss out. If you're playing in a league of that size, there's only so many to go around. You got to get one.
Yeah.
So I like going 1-and-1 for the bigger leagues. But if you're in 10-team, I think you're fine to go wide receiver, and, start building your team that way.
I like that. I like that analysis.
Who would you say is this year's sleeper, as in like last year's Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I mean, I like Pickens. I think he can be really good. I like Nico Collins for the Texans. He's a guy I'm targeting quite a bit for the same reasons you mentioned. I don't think they're going to be very good. I think they're going to be playing from behind quite a bit. He could be the St. Brown of last year because they're always going to be down, 10, 20 points, in the second half.
Kyle's taking plenty of notes right now for our draft on Monday.
I like him.
Nico Collins. Thank you.
We know why Kyle wanted to have Krueger on this episode.
Yeah, no, we're not airing this.
And another guy I like too is DJ Henderson for the Rams. Cam Akers has proved to be Superman in a sense of coming back from an Achilles injury in like 3 months, absolutely unheard of. I wish I could heal from injuries like that. That would be pretty cool. My basketball career probably would have been a lot better if that was the case. But there's a lot of noise starting to rumor in the Rams there that Henderson could be a big part of this offense. He's got blazing speed. He's got a lot of skill set of being able to catch the ball, run the ball. He could be a very good fit for that Rams offense. And, I think Cam Akers will still have a good, successful season. But, if you asked me at the end of the day or told me at the end of the year that Henderson ended up with more fantasy points than Akers, I would not be shocked.
Okay.
I like that too. See, it seems like your approach, which is similar to my strategy, what I'm thinking about potentially doing this year is take the guy in a backfield that's going to cost you less, but could potentially have just as much upside as the guy that costs as much to go in the first 4 rounds or so.
Couple market inefficiencies.
I like to think about the storylines. You know, Kyle brought up a great one with the Texans. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be passing a lot.
Thank
What
you.
does that mean? More opportunities. So I like to do that as you start to evaluate some of these players, right? Like, who has a good fit for what you imagine their season to look like? If you imagine somebody going 17-0, well, then offense should have a pretty good time. If you imagine somebody being at the other side of that, well, there's also going to be some pretty fantasy relevant players as well, because they're always going to be needing to score points. And we've seen over the last 5 years that when teams are down, 20 points in the fourth quarter, those defenses are not giving it their all. They're letting cupcake touchdowns in, and we're seeing fantasy guys have big weeks for absolutely no reason. You're like, oh, they lost the game by 25, but my guy had 20. That's all right. Because at the end of the day, for fantasy, it doesn't matter. Wins and losses don't matter in real life. It's all about just getting the points and getting the yards. So those garbage time yards and touchdowns are, really where the money's at.
So I actually just thought of one that I think is an interesting point. Guys who have had a change of scenery last season coming into this season. Devontae Adams, Russell Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster, guys like that. Those four, or if there's anyone else you can think of, do you feel like them going to their team, this new situation that they're in, helps or hurts their fantasy stock? And how does it impact the players around them in their offenses as well?
Wow. Great question there.
Great question.
Yeah, love that one. I think Devontae Adams has a really great shot to be wide receiver number 1 this year. A guy that I have been targeting at that back half, especially if he falls to me at one of those spots. A guy I'm looking to take anytime I have the opportunity to snag him, because I do think
people forget him and Carr played together in college.
Yeah, and I think the scenery there is going to be good for him. And I just think it's going to be a really good fit for him overall to have a totally breakout season, which is crazy because he's been, one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in football the past few years. So I like his change of scenery. So shockingly, I like Tyreek Hill's change of scenery. Obviously, going from Mahomes to Tua is a huge downgrade, especially when you think of it from a fantasy perspective. But I think there's been so much noise around Tyreek Hill not being great because of this offensive change that I think he's got a lot to prove at this point. And I do think Tyreek Hill is a guy that, has a shot at the Hall of Fame. This would be a great time to show it. So I do think he's, that sort of athlete that would want to bring out the best in him. And I'm trying to think of some of the other names you said there, but yeah, those were the two that really stood out to me as just guys that I think the change of scenery is
the other two were
downgrading at quarterback, but
Juju to the Chiefs and Russell Wilson to the Broncos.
Oh yeah. I mean, Russ to the Broncos would be great for all those wide receivers. No doubt there. I mean, I love Russell Wilson. Think he's one of the best quarterbacks we've been able to watch for a while. Really talented. So I do like the Jerry Jeudy's. Give me some stocks of him. But I didn't even end up with any stocks of Jeudy, and probably an oversight there. But you end up sometimes in these flows, right, and overthinking things to a certain degree. Guy I was targeting prior to a lot of those drafts just didn't end up with. So I do like the change of scenery for Russell Wilson. Juju, I just don't think he's that good, if I'm being honest. I just think he's an okay guy.
He's an okay guy.
We got a Juju Pro podcast here.
Steelers guy here. Thanks for coming.
I feel like
we don't give a fuck about him.
He's on the Chiefs now. What do you
yeah, but he's my dude.
And I'll say this lightly because
breaking news to Ty.
There's no such thing as the next Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp literally set the world on fire with his season last year. But if there's a guy who is gonna kind of like almost somewhat come out of nowhere with a wide receiver 1 season or a top 5 season, I think Juju is a dark horse for that. Just because of the offense he's in, and we've seen him do it before.
Do you think there are any other dark horse wide receivers out there? We saw last year, right? Debo, massive year. Cooper Kupp, massive year. Jamar Chase, massive year. Are there any guys that you think could fit that mold?
Adam Thielen. Not kidding. Adam Thielen.
Okay. All right. I'm going to need an explanation here. Give it to me. We've been, ripping on Kirk Cousins to start this podcast here. Then out of the blue, you say Adam Thielen. I gotta give me
Keep
the
him on your
storyline. How does Adam Thielen have a breakout year?
I'll give you a quick podcasting tip. When everybody thinks you're gonna zag. Keep them on their toes. I think they're utilizing him more in the slot this year. And with the addition of Jalen Reagor and obviously Justin Jefferson, I think he's just gonna he just has potential to be a mismatch, or a matchup nightmare.
I mean, the guy is an absolute touchdown hog too. Like
Exactly.
He played 13 games last year and had 10 touchdowns. In 2020, he played 15 games and had 14 touchdowns. Like when they get into the red zone or the green zone, like I think Kirk Cousins is looking his way.
This guy loves
I
end
will say
zones.
though, Kyle, you brought up Jalen Reagor now like 3 times today, as if he's some stud wide receiver.
No, he's not. He's just on the roster.
He's just a guy. He's just so him just being a guy makes the other wide receivers running better.
He's a guy's
Adam
guy.
Thielen, maybe. Yeah, he's a guy's guy. So maybe Adam Thielen will get more touches in the slot or more snaps in the slot, something along those lines. I don't know anything. I don't even know where Jalen Reagor went to college. I was gonna say high school. No.
Isn't
Why'd he go to college?
Fun fact: the Eagles took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson.
1 pick ahead.
Who's the famous
Crazy.
Philly video of the guy that's like, man, you can't catch anything. I'm out here catching babies.
Nelson Aguilar.
Nelson Aguilar. That
Is he in the
video
league?
gets me every
Ty,
time.
can you see if he's in the league? He might be on the Raiders, actually. I
Yeah,
think
Ty, can
he's-
you crop in that soundbite there?
Ty actually has no idea how to produce a podcast. He
Oh
just-
no, we're flying by the seat of our pants over here, boys and girls.
he has absolutely no idea what's going on.
So
I have one last question, Max, before you throw yours in there.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
last year, Cooper Kupp obviously had a monster year. What would you have said at your draft if somebody took him in the 4th round? Would you have made fun of that person for taking Cooper Kupp? Or would you have applauded them for having the foresight to know that he was going to have the best fantasy season ever? What would you have done?
Well, I mean, again, depends who you're drafting with, right? If it's a work
Jack
league,
Felis.
you just let it go.
Felix.
But if it's anybody right, it's always fun to rip on different picks that are being made. Hey, how could you make that pick, right? That's always a good time at a fantasy draft, and definitely something you want to incorporate there. But again, I think it's all about going and getting your guys. So you got to just go up there with confidence. Like, yeah, I'm going to draft this guy 3 or 4 rounds early. I don't care because he's my guy. I'm seeing this big breakout. And then when it doesn't happen, you just fall on it. You just say like, yeah, man, got me, right? Or when it happens, then you're the genius, right? And you're walking to the fantasy playoffs, winning some money. So, again, it's about getting your guys.
Okay,
Nelson
I got my
Aguilar,
guy. So.
Patriot, by the way.
Oh, shout out me.
My last question was, what are some of your favorite team names this year?
Oh, team names.
Do you have any? Like, what are the team names of your fantasy teams? Are they like related to your players at all? Are they inside jokes?
Typically I do inside jokes for the most part. Trying to see if anybody's got like some good ones right now across the leagues I'm in. You see a lot of like the same ones come up like quite a bit. Well, I'm looking for team names here. I came prepared with a couple of questions today. Who has the better season, Debo or Jamar Chase? I think they're
Debo.
similar players. Who has the better season and why?
Debo, I think.
So is this assuming they play a full season? Because I think Debo is a little more fragile than Chase.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell me
Debo.
that you think that Chase is going to have a better year because you think Debo is going to be hurt. That's fair analysis.
I don't think the Bengals are good, but there's no way they have the type of year they did last year. They were like an anomaly.
I think Chase was a rookie last year, and he's only going to get better this year.
And that's facts.
Like his numbers might not be that much better, but like they could be. Even if they are what they were last year, like that's just fine too.
And I'm saying Debo because I just drafted him an hour ago.
I mean, I like Debo because he's probably the funnest player to own in fantasy, right? Does a little bit of everything. That's just it's fun and exciting, right? You're turning on red zone on the weekend, and next thing you know, Debo's got like a 30-yard rush or a 50-yard catch. that's just the fun way to play fantasy. And I always say, like, when it comes to fantasy, you got to play it in a way that enables you to have fun. So for me, being a big Bears fan, I will never have a fantasy team with a Green Bay Packer on it. That is my one rule for fantasy.
Oh, as I took Aaron Jones.
It's a losing strategy.
Whoops.
Last thing
What
I'll
else did
say
you-
is I think Jamar Chase had two games over 200 yards last year, and I think there were 3 of them total in the NFL. So I just think he's literally a game breaking talent.
I mean, yeah, he's special. Remember last year too, he was dropping everything in the preseason, so he fell to like rounds 7, 8, 9, 10, probably 11 in some leagues. Wow, all for nothing. All for him to just have a breakout.
Well,
Sounds like I'll take Chase. Kyle take Debo.
That's why I'm better. What else did you have?
Another one I had was one guy you have to have on your fantasy team.
Oh, honestly, I would have said Debo Samuel. I'm not kidding. If you were to flip the questions, I would have said Debo Samuel.
Okay.
I guess it depends where you're picking from, but it's hard not to say Justin Jefferson this year.
Justin Jefferson, like it, stud.
We were
What about
ripping
a
Kirk
guy like in
Cousins
the
and then just
later round,
blowing
though, right?
him.
Because you don't have the opportunity to get a Justin Jefferson or Debo Samuel in your drafts, right? Like,
Right.
not every draft you have, you're going to have that opportunity. But what about one guy that you could have the opportunity? So let's say he's a guy going outside of the first 3 rounds.
Outside of the first 3 rounds, so 4 and beyond.
Usually 4 comes after 3. Just so you know.
Yeah,
I'll say one of the guys I have
to
to have would either be one of the Broncos wide receivers, either Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton. Like I think those guys are just gonna absolutely take off if they can replicate somewhat of what Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are able to deliver with Russell Wilson. Like those guys could easily both be top 15 receivers.
I got an interesting one, and I don't know if this is. He's probably not going in the 4th round. He's definitely going later. But how about Brandon Cooks?
Yep.
Brandon
I think Cooks is severely undervalued, like criminally.
Mm-hmm.
I think
No
overall,
one wants to take him because he's on the Texans.
since he's been in the NFL, I swear, he's only had like 1 or 2 seasons of not being like a top 20 wide receiver in fantasy or top 15 wide receiver. It's something crazy. He's got some crazy stats behind him of being wildly productive when it comes to fantasy football. So really interesting guy and somebody that just balls out year after year, but doesn't really get talked about too much. Just flies under the radar.
Just plays with his balls out.
Here's another one. How about Rashad Bateman? 2nd-year receiver. Marquise Brown steps out of that offense. Sammy Watkins, who really didn't play that much, but is also leaving targets to be taken there. I mean, they got to throw the ball to someone. And Bateman, they spent the 1st-round pick on. I think he's going to get a lot of targets this year.
Our guy Lucas, the one Ravens fan in Chicago, he loves him this year. He thinks he's going to have this huge breakout season. He was hurt last year. Obviously, the skill set is there. 1st round wide receivers tend to be productive for the most part, outside of the Jalen Riegers of the world.
Fuck you.
I didn't know this was going to be a Jalen Rieger podcast today.
Yeah, it is. It's the best. Hey, you know who Mark Bellhorn is?
The Jalen Rieger special.
Hey, there's Mark Bellhorn's name. Thought we forgot.
Mark Bellhorn? That would be a pretty good.
Mark Bellhorn gets mentioned at least once every show. So
okay,
yeah, he's a former Cup player. Keep going with your rant there.
Lost my train of thought there.
So Bateman. We're talking about Rashad Bateman.
Bateman. No, I mean, again, you got to build up storylines in your head. So 1st round wide receiver, hurt last year, is getting drafted middle rounds. He's got Lamar Jackson, who could have an MVP type season. The narrative fits to say Lamar Jackson has this MVP season. Who's he throwing the ball to? Rashad Bateman, the 1st round pick, getting underdrafted, could be that wide receiver number 1. So that's the types of storylines that I like to build out and say, hey, this guy fits a narrative. Okay, this is probably a guy I would like to go after.
Yep.
Did you have any other questions for us, Krueger?
Or should we kick it over to the starting 5?
let's kick it to the starting five.
All right, Max, what is it?
So we're doing touchdown celebrations, which I think will be a fun one.
Touchdown celebrations. All right, here we go. This is a good one. Krueger, since you are the guest, you go first. Max, you could go second. Ty, do you want in on this or no? I can't hear you.
No, you guys go ahead.
Okay. All right, Krueger, kick us off whenever you're ready.
Oh, I got the first pick, and we got full snake here.
Yeah, you're 1-1.
Oh man, my 1-1 here. Oh man, the 1-1. I gotta go with autographing the football, pulling the Sharpie out of the sock, signing the football was probably one of the coolest moves of all time. Knowing you're going to score a touchdown and putting a Sharpie in your sock.
I like that one.
How cool is that?
That's a good first call.
1-1.
Literally running out onto the field with a Sharpie in your sock. That is next level confidence. I'm going to go the Gronk spike with the second pick.
I would have bet my life you were taking that first round.
I mean, that's just an
Yeah.
easy lock for me in the first round. One of my favorite players of all time. It just doesn't get old.
All right, so my first one, it's somewhat similar to Krueger's in that there's a prop involved, but I'm gonna go Joe Horn taking out the cell phone and making a
Ooh,
call.
you bastard.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Horn. That's an all-timer. And then my second pick here, I'm gonna go Randy Moss mooning the crowd at Lambeau.
Wow. You literally stole both of my potential next picks.
The moon
Yeah.
was up there for me as one of the ones I was thinking for 1-1. So
It's a great
Awesome.
one. It's a shout out me. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go Antonio Brown twerking.
Sexually aggressive. I looked that one up, and that's literally what the headline is: sexually aggressive D-Day celebration.
Max
don't mind
is
it.
horny.
Uh-oh. Hopefully
Okay.
the gal's not over.
all right. We'll stay in line of the Antonio Brown. I always love it when a guy leaves the stadium, just runs out the tunnel after you score a touchdown, running out the tunnel like I'm out of here, game's over. Always think that's a pretty good flex on the other team and a pretty standard, touchdown celebration that you'll see on like any given Sunday. So I like the reusability of it. And then the second one here, and I'm surprised it didn't go in the first round because I was also thinking about it 1-1, is the popcorn. Is
That's
Oh.
T.O. popcorn.
the
That was
T.O.
my next
popcorn,
one.
man.
That was my next one. You got me. God damn it.
T.O.'s got a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
What's that say about him?
He's a showman.
Scores a lot of touchdowns.
Dude knows how to put on a performance.
I saw the other day he ran like a 4.442, so he's still got it.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
48.
He could easily
he's-
start for the Bears.
He still gets it.
Yeah. I said, why not? When I saw the video, I said, why not? Yeah, let's give him a jersey.
Fuck, we
Ocho
could have
Cinco,
done
too.
a starting five of just T.O.'s touchdown celebrations. Jesus.
I'm going to go.
Max.
So it's back to me, correct?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Deion Sanders high stepping into the end zone.
Oh, you cocksucker. God damn it.
The pre even before you're in the end zone.
Yes.
Flex, that is a good one.
If you want to talk about the anti, then Deshaun Jackson fumbling at the one.
Right. the throw it back before you're even in the end zone.
Yes.
So good thing I'm glad you mentioned Deshaun Jackson there, but I'm gonna bring him up in a second. My first one's gonna be Chad Johnson putting on the Hall of Fame jacket on the sidelines where it says Hall of Fame 2000 ?
Yep.
That's just outrageous and that's cocky as hell. And another one that's cocky as hell is Deshaun Jackson returning that punt in the Meadowlands as time expired to win the game. And he's literally just running parallel to the end zone, just
Sideways.
taunting everybody.
That's literally something you do in
He's
Madden.
running fucking sideways. Yeah, I know. It is outrageous. So I'm gonna consider that a touchdown celebration because he knew he was gonna.
We probably
score.
could have had
It's
a
fucking
whole touchdown
stupid.
celebration of just Tio and Ocho Cinco.
Yes.
When you guys threw out this topic right before, instantly those were the two guys I thought of, and I was like, all right, man, what did they do? The antics they brought to the game were just awesome.
They're honestly outrageous.
I'm gonna
Max,
go.
you're up.
Yeah, we'll keep the TO theme. I'm gonna go, and I've seen other guys do this too, but taking the cheerleaders pom poms.
Like Brucey or whoever in The Longest Yard.
Yes.
Witowski. It's a great movie.
Okay. I got a couple left here. The first one I'm going to go with is another standard touchdown celebration that we see. I like to have a little bit of variability here on this draft. So give me a dunk. And we even
Nice.
saw, I think Jimmy Graham dunked it, right? And they had to come bring out the thing to level out the goalpost. So a good
The
dunk
level,
is
yeah.
always solid. And then for my last pick here, a lot of good ones. I got to go with Ezekiel Elliott on Thanksgiving Day jumping into the pot. The Salvation Army pot was
The Salvation Army
unbelievable.
pot, yeah. That is a good one. I like that. Max, what do you got?
I'll close it out with the gritty.
How unoriginal.
How's that
I hate-
unoriginal?
I
The
hate the gritty.
TikTokers that are listening to this podcast are going to love that one.
I know,
Justin
Max-
Jefferson started it, and everyone
Max-
else adopted it.
Max is just cheating right now.
Playing up
That's
to
a
the
millennial
crowd.
answer if I've ever heard
Yeah.
one.
He's just
Are you going to do
trying
a gritty for the TikTok there and get a couple extra votes, or?
Yeah, he's
I have a great
It's,
honorable mention that I probably should have used as my last pick.
so my last pick is gonna be Marshawn Lynch grabbing his nuts and launching himself into the end zone.
Oh,
That's a good way to
one.
close it out.
You know exactly what I'm talking about too.
Yep. I can
What
picture
are-
it.
What was the honorable mention you had, Max?
So I was basically just going to say team celebrations in general, because those are always fun. But a specific one is the Bengals are all standing around Joe Mixon, like huddled around him, and they're pretending like he's playing craps. Like he's literally just shooting dice. Like that is so cool.
Yeah, the stupid shit that those team celebrations are hilarious. The Vikings last year were playing Duck Duck Goose.
It was on my list of touchdowns there as well. So the Duck Duck Goose was definitely an honorable mention here as well. I think the team celebrations, the more creative they get, the better they are. What about the dab? What about like we just forgot about
Cam
the dab? The dab's dead. Like the
Cam
gritty's going to
Newton's
be the
dead.
dab in a few years.
Never been a big Cam Newton guy.
The dab died with Cam.
The dab died with Cam.
How about simply handing the ball to the ref?
Jerry Rice, classic.
Walter Payton style.
Well, yeah.
Or what about rowing the boat?
Yeah, that was one I had as well. I was thinking Bears Vikings from a couple Monday nights or a couple of years ago, Monday or
What
Sunday
about
night.
spinning the football on the nose?
Yeah, but see that I feel like they do that for like they get a 6-yard gain.
Yeah,
like,
they. That's just
So,
a celebration that you see like
yeah.
every other play, right? First down, right? You get the
Nowadays
spin the
it is
ball.
anyway.
still cool as shit. They do it too often. This one is college. I think this was last year or 2 years ago. The Ole Miss versus Mississippi State game. The Ole Miss player literally got on his knees and pretend like he was pissing like a dog. I forget what this guy's name was actually, but yeah, it was good family fun.
Victor Cruz salsa dancing was a good one.
Oh, Victor Cruz salsa dancing. That was pretty electric. Yeah,
I
Victor
just
Cruz,
read just
man.
now actually, his salsa dancing was a tribute to his grandmother who passed away. She taught him how to salsa dance when he was a kid.
Wow,
Oh,
we
really?
left that one out of the draft. Not
That's
good,
sick.
man. Not good. We really missed out on that one.
One final one that I had that makes me laugh as I'm going through these is Tyreek Hill. He was the cameraman. He literally just hopped behind one of the cameras and was just flinging that thing around, zooming in and out and shit. After he scored a touchdown, he's like zooming in on his teammates.
The Austin Eckler air guitar celebration's good. With
That looks like he's just whacking
Yeah.
off, but
with the bolts
Very
on his helmet.
giftable though.
yeah, no, I respect it.
I
don't
like
mind
the
it.
Ocho Cinco when he putts with the goalpost.
Yep. That's
Oh, how about
The
it's
pilot or
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
they're called.
yeah, the pylon. How about Steve Smith did this against the Bears in the playoffs, and I know Antonio Brown's does it when they like run up and use the goalpost as like a stripper pole. They just jump on it
Jump
and
on it and
slide
slide
right
it
down.
down.
Oh, when they do the hug.
Yeah, they like wrap their legs and arms around it and then slide right down.
You got to think that's got to hurt, right?
I mean, you
It
think a
can't
lot
be.
of shit they're doing
That
hurts. I don't know. They're all drugged up anyway. They're probably like, yeah, fuck it. What's a bruise on the sternum at this
One
point?
that I didn't want to give any credit to, but obviously is cool for Packers fans is the Lambeau.
No.
Nope,
No.
nope, nope,
No.
nope, no,
Can you
no.
cut that part?
Yeah, can you remove that out? That was
Fade
not
us
to
out
be
right here.
discussed on yeah, that was not to be discussed on
Fade
this
it.
podcast.
Fade it. And that's it. That's a wrap. Thanks for coming. Best one yet.